Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. I am Eve Richards. Today's conversation centers on leadership, responsibility, and what happens when professional skills meets personal conviction. Our guest is Brandy Vega. We'll delve into Brandy's background in a minute. I'd like to introduce my co-host for today's episode, Carla Marie, a media personality. She's a model and red carpet interviewer whose work spans entertainment coverage, fashion, and live events. Through years of on camera interviews and red carpet reporting, Carla has developed a grounded interviewing skill that prioritizes presence, clarity, and genuine exchange. Her background across modeling, media, and intuitive conversations gives her a natural ability to read a room. Carla, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. And it's so great for us to have Brandy here today. I'm a very big fan of Promise to Live, everything behind it. So this is going to be a very special episode
Of
for
course.
sure.
And before we start talking to Brandy, please tell the audience some of the fun projects that you're currently working on.
Oh yes, I shared earlier, I'm currently just started filming for a reality series, and even Roger both know how much I love boats, so it was quite fitting for me to be cast for something that occurs on yachts. It covers kind of the boating lifestyle, also combined with entertainment, and then also working on currently playing an investigative reporter and everything. So similar to who I am in an upcoming horror film through The Last Clan.
Oh, that's
Yes.
fantastic. Well, welcome. And I'm
Thank
definitely
you.
looking forward to this conversation. So now, Brandy Vega is an entrepreneur, media executive, an advocate for what career spans in broadcasting, production, technology, and nonprofit leadership. She's the founder and CEO of the Vega Media Studios, a full service video production and media company. And of course, she's got Promise to Live, which you and I attended her
Yes.
event last year. At 17, Brandy joined the United States Army as a broadcaster and public affairs specialist. Her background in journalism and media later led to reporting anchor and producing content for national and international audiences. In recent years, she's launched the Promise to Leave campaign, a global initiative that encourages people to make a commitment to reach out for help if they ever find themselves in crisis and to share that promise with others in order to reduce stigma and increase access to resources. The campaign has reached audiences worldwide through digital media, live events, and partnerships with mental health organizations. Brandy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, what an honor to be with you, lovely ladies, today. Thank you.
Of course. So you built a career in broadcasting and media long before Promise to Leave
Yes.
existed. How
Yeah.
did your early training in storytelling shape the way you approach community today or communications today?
Well, communications today have changed so much, as we know, with cell phones, AI, digital media. Things were different when I started. I hate to date myself, but 30 years ago, when I started doing production, we were using digital and just big beta tapes and all the stuff. But what's changed is people used to wait to get a story, and now they can have a story in 30 seconds. They can get it live because we all have the opportunity to be digital storytellers at the drop of live. And so for me, when I almost lost my daughter to suicide nearly 5 years ago, I needed help and I did not know where to go. And so I turned to my social media and I just said, I need help. And my video went viral. I got thousands and thousands of views and people reaching out. And then as we moved forward in this initiative, I thought, if we're going to save lives and change lives, we have to reach people where they are on the devices and the platforms that they use through the people that they already know, trust, and follow. And so that's what we've been doing with Promise to Live the last 5 years.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And, I absolutely love, I receive all the emails for everything that you have, all of the different events all over the country and everything else. And one of the things that really stood out to me, I think the first one I attended was 2 years ago over at the Avalon in Hollywood. And I was blown away by the entire production, right? I love the message of it all. But also, too, it was just, being able to have the people that shared such personal stories. Yeah. Right now, that must be such an emotional process. And it's like just, selecting or, people must have such a great level of comfort with you. And, to see so many people, such big names supporting such an amazing cause. Right now, how did you, really decide that, I know kind of, I know since I've attended and everything else, but could you share with our viewers a little bit about what motivated you to take that journey to start Promise to Live?
I almost lost my 14-year-old daughter to suicide, and not just once, but twice. And the first time she was 12, but we buried it because of the shame and the fear and the stigma. I was a successful entrepreneur. I just built my studio, single mom. I had adopted a baby through foster care. I was a surrogate. Like, I had all this stuff going. And I actually taught suicide prevention. I knew what to look for. I'd been educated and trained. So when it happened, I buried it like a dark secret because I was so ashamed and I didn't want to talk about it, thinking of the fear and the stigma that I must be such a terrible human being, that my own child would rather be dead than be with me. And those were the lies I told myself. But when it happened again 2 years later, this time I knew I was begging God to save my daughter. I didn't know if she was going to make it. I'm in the hospital. We're on day 2 and I'm just begging for a miracle. She's 14 years old. I was like, please save her. And I got a download from God that said, I'll give you a second chance, but there won't be a third. What will you do? And at that time I was like, anything. And I didn't know what it looked like. But within an hour she woke up, she was fully functional. And I'm happy to report she just bought her own business. 2 months ago, she builds professional mascots. She did the LA Clippers. She's doing the Dallas Mavericks, the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, she's a mascot builder
Incredible.
at 19 years old. So incredibly talented. And she found hope. But what I've done over the last 5 years is, you ask how you get people to open up. When you're vulnerable and you're authentic with people and you share hard things, and this was the hardest thing in my entire career. And I was in the Army and law enforcement and worked in media and TV, and that's hard. When you share these personal heartaches, it opens it up and people want to share with you because now they know that they can trust you and you're safe. And so that's kind of what we found, is when we do have these conversations like you guys are right now, thank you for that. You help destigmatize it. And then people go, yeah, you know what? I can do this. And, the whole part of us with Promise is, again, getting people to be vulnerable. If I ask you guys, hey, look me in the eye, will you make me a promise if you find yourself in that dark place? You'll get help. Will you promise to reach out? Get you to say you promise. The power of a promise is so important. Studies show you're 60% more likely to keep it when it counts. So that's been our mission, is getting people to make a promise, connecting them to vetted resources I could not find in one place, and then building this amazing community online and in person.
So
Wow.
beautiful.
That is so incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear that your daughter is doing better and she's
Same.
19, because that was the
Thriving.
first thing I was going to ask, like, how is she doing?
Yes.
I really admired when I came to the event last year. Carla was there. It just resonated with me that you've taken on such an important conversation
Yeah.
that I feel like so many people bury because, as you
Yes.
mentioned, the stigma. And I talk about it because I think a lot of people have to become aware. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all about
Right.
saving someone else's lives.
Yeah.
When you look back at this organization that you've built, personally, what does it mean for you? Because it's helping so many
many.
people out in the world.
I had a lady come up to me recently, and she came up and she goes, Brandy, you're the creator of Promise to Live, right? I'd never met her. Yeah. She said, I went to one of your events. I got a pocket hug, which is a coin that we give out. She goes, my husband's a Vietnam veteran, and I talked to him about this because he struggles with PTSD. She goes, and we've struggled the whole time together, but I had him make me a promise. You taught me how to have the conversation, We had a conversation. He made me a promise. He keeps a pocket hug in his pocket all the time, in the morning, at night, keeps it in. She goes, and the other day, the demons got the best of him, and he stormed out. He said he was done. He was done with this life and he was going to end it. And you guys, we can't take that as a cry just for help, because I lost 3 friends in the Silicon Slopes tech industry that I work with in the last month. So she said to me, he stormed out. He said he was going to end his life. And she didn't know. She just hoped and prayed all night. And early in the morning, he came walking in and he had the coin in his hand and tears in his eyes. And he said, I'm here because of the promise I made you and because of this damn coin. And we've given out over 100,000 of those damn coins. And we're on a mission this year to do 1 million hugs for hope. And we have a campaign called Unplug and Hug. We're inviting people everywhere on the 10th of the month to disconnect from your devices and get out in real life and look somebody in the eye and tell them, hey, the world's better because you're here. And if nobody's told you recently, you're enough. And we care about you. And will you promise me, and you could do this with strangers, that you'll reach out for help if you struggle? Get them to say yes. Send them to our site. We're downloading digital pocket hugs. We have our real ones. But when you talk about what gives me fuel, because it is exhausting, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's painful. But when I get these comments that the promise saved my life, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't made the promise. My son was going to take his life, but he made a promise. He got help. We're getting help. And we've seen that multiple times. We know what we're doing is shifting this conversation from awareness to action and accountability. And I think Da Vinci said it best. He said, I've been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do. So what we do is we go out and we try to get all the doers to just say, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a clinician. You just have to care. And you got to let people know they're seen and get them to promise.
That is so beautiful. That is just so amazing. And, and I love too that you have, such an extensive, amazing background, but also to that military experience, right? Because there's so many unique things that go into that. I do have a lot of family members, that are still active, and many that were. Right. And that's something that I feel like probably just brings such a power to also what you're doing, because in those positions everybody's taught to be so strong. We see them on the outside, we have this perception of who they are, and a lot of people aren't aware of the kinds of struggles, just like you mentioned with the PTSD, etc. And what I love is that Promise2Live also, it gives everybody this access to all these resources that they could need all in one place, as you said, right? It's not just about bringing the awareness to everything, making these conversations something that is acceptable, where people can feel safe being vulnerable, but also giving that access to those resources for just anybody, no matter what their needs may be, whether they have a loved one that's struggling with that, they themselves. It's just everything all working synergistically together.
Well, I was in Phoenix last month presenting to 1,000 business owners and executives. And one of them came up and shared that they were a psychologist and that they lost a 7-year-old to suicide. So when you talk about, people say, Brandy, what should I look for? What are the conversations? Don't look for anything. Have the conversation. And the conversation is this: honest questions, get honest answers. Talk to the people you love and say, are you suicidal? That's what you do. It's called ask, acknowledge, support, keep in touch. Are you suicidal? Have you thought about ending your life? That must be hard. Let me support you, and please keep in touch. So we've been working on this because we also had an 80-year-old who took their life. We have men, women, we have veterans. This is a problem that has zero discrimination.
Yes.
So our mission is we want to reach everyone, because I know what it's like. I am a veteran, but also in the media has a ton of PTSD. The entertainment industry, it has a lot of issues. So we're all going through something, and we all need that support.
Yeah. Going back to the event, it was really inspiring to have all of the successful people come and talk about your struggles, like Maurice Bernard from is it Maurice? I may not be pronouncing his name correctly, from General Hospital, and it's fairly documented out there with his struggles. And Twitch, when his wife Allison was on stage and shared, I think it was so powerful, because this is something that can happen to anyone, regardless of your social, economic status. And the fact that you can get all of this public figures to come out
Yeah,
and
it's
share
beautiful.
experiences, I think it's a much bigger.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for what you're doing to educate folks. And it's okay for people to talk about it because you're saving so many lives.
And those are messages I'm getting saying, thank you. Thank you for making a difference. We're doing a thing right now in safe tech. And I hope that you guys will talk about this too. Sextortion, online scams, digital manipulation. We're seeing so many things right now, and it's costing lives because we're afraid to have the conversation that says, one, talk to the people you love and say, don't participate in sending, nude photos. And if you do, they might be used against you. But two is making it a safe place to say, if you do that, and we all make bad decisions sometimes, come and talk to us. So we're really trying to educate people, number one, to really have the conversations and connect and talk about it so that they can find the tools and resources before they need them.
Yeah. Because I mean, like a 7-year-old child, like that one, I was like, oh my gosh, like I wasn't expecting to hear that. And I think,
Yes.
Yeah.
to talk about things like this is really important because a lot of the times, I'll be honest, it's like, I have like nieces and nephews that are right around that age. And, like that's something I'll talk about even to my sister because we don't necessarily think sometimes as a society that somebody's so young. Like I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, my nephew's turning like, 7 very soon. Like, and it's shocking to, but also too, I know she's communicating, okay, there are so many challenges even as a child growing up, right? Going from, okay, kindergarten to, first grades to all the things that kids go through. So it's just even that awareness that you just brought to me. It was like, I wasn't, I would always think, okay, adults, teenagers, adolescents, but like, it's so important that so many parents are now becoming aware. Like, look, like you said, there are all these different challenges that, this digital world and
Yes.
everything else presents, right?
And there's ways to have age appropriate conversations. With the little kids, you wouldn't say, hey, have you thought about suicide? Because they're like, maybe I don't even know what that is. But if you say, have you thought about hurting yourself? Sometimes do you feel unsafe or scared? What do you do with those emotions? And getting them to know it's okay to come talk to mom and dad or your teacher or sibling or friend to share that I had a hard day and I'm feeling anxious or nervous or scared, or I'm thinking about just kind of hurting myself in a weird way. So, we go through and teach that because we were never taught these conversations. I know I can speak for myself as a Gen Xer. I didn't have this conversation. I was taught about safe sex and drinking and driving, never about mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think with today's society, and of course, there's the internet, there's social media, there's a lot of pressure, especially for younger kids, 13, 12,
Yeah, that we
10.
didn't grow up with.
We
That
didn't grow
just,
up with that. Yeah, we're
yeah.
growing up in total. This is different times, right? There's a lot of peer pressure. I mean,
Right.
obviously, I don't know. There's better solution. I don't know what the solution is in terms of the long-term solution. Is this something that you think schools should be able to educate maybe teenagers like 13, 14, because
Yeah.
it's a much bigger problem than we even talk
Yeah.
about.
Absolutely. No, this is something, one, it needs to start at home with your family and your friends. But at the same time, I think that school has a responsibility to teach us the things that are the most important. And while math and science is very important, so is understanding emotions and your mental health, because none of that matters if you're not here. So we talk about how do you have that. And there's some great programs like Stand for Kind, Resilient You, and there's programs that again go age appropriate that teach kids things through music. And then there's groups like the Hope Squad and different groups like that. And we're actually Promise2Live is launching 20 chapters this year around the world, and we've got one opening in San Diego and we have one in LA. And so we want to build that there to help people know how to have these conversations, where to find the tools, and to have impact directly in their community face to face.
Well, and I love how she says that, like, because it all starts with having the conversations. That is the most important thing is like teaching and, helping and providing those, advices and resources, just starting with the conversation because that's where it all begins. That's
Yes.
exactly. And that's and it sounds less daunting to people like, look, have the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. just
If you're
begin
worried,
there.
it's literally ask. And it's so simple because people go, well, I'm not an expert. No, you don't have to be. You just have to care. And it looks like this, guys. Ask. ASK. I mean, I kind of referenced it, but it's like, hey, I know that you just lost a parent, or I know your parents got divorced, or I know you lost your job, or whatever it is. You acknowledge the problem that they could be facing. Hey, I see that maybe you've been dealing with some depression. Are you okay? I acknowledge the problem. I point it out. I don't try to hide it or dance around it. And then they say, yeah, I'm going through it. It's really hard. And then you come back with support. Gosh, I bet that is hard. That's all you have to do is say something supportive. That must be difficult. I'm proud of you for sticking around. So it's acknowledge the problem and the person, support with a supportive comment. That must be hard is a good one. And then K is keep in touch. Hey, will you check in with me tonight? Will you text me in the morning? Can we go for a walk? Can we go get a coffee? Whatever it is, you're just asking. And whether it's you that needs it or somebody else, that's a simple, simple thing to remember.
I feel so bad for a lot of young teenagers because there's so much peer pressure, right? And there's the pressure, even as an adult, to conform to society. There's the societal norms, how to fit in, what to wear. And I just think the fact that you are able to share your experiences, I think you're one of the success stories where your daughter, looking back, she's here with us today. But there are so many parents out there. And so for anyone struggling, because obviously you've got your website, and someone is going through something similar with what you experienced with your daughter, what is the first outreach? Like, should they go to your website in terms of really trying to educate folks out there in terms of what to do?
You know, the very first video I did was with NBC News, and they interviewed me and they said, what should you do? And I said this, and I'll say it to your listeners or viewers: stop what you're doing and go ask the people you love, not just your kids. It could be your spouse, your best friend, your mom, and say, are you struggling? Are you feeling suicidal? People are afraid because they think they're going to plant an idea. Number one, you're not. And when I shared that story on NBC and I said, stop what you're doing, go check on your kids and your loved ones, ask them point blank, you're not going to plant it, honest questions, honest answers. I got a message from a dad and he said, you just saved my daughter's life. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I heard you say this. And I ran in her room and she had already written her suicide note. She was in the process of trying to end her life. And we are at the hospital right now. Thank you. And the next morning, I got a message from a family who said, Brandy, we watched your story on the news and we talked to our 15-year-old and he confessed he was going to kill himself this weekend. We're getting him help. So don't pause. Don't wait to get educated. If you hear our voices right now, do it today. You're never going to regret the action and you will not plant the idea. So go ask them. And if they say they are, get help. And you can find the help and where to go through 988, which is like the 911 for mental health. It's available 24/7. You can text or call. But you can also go to our website, promise2live.org. And we do have under resources, get help, vetted resources. And there's Samaritans, there's NAMI, AFSP, JED, Trevor, lots of wonderful groups that we have researched for you and put in one place. So, you know, if your kid's struggling with their sexual identity, or if they're a veteran, or if, you know, they're a mom going through menopause or postpartum, we have resources and there is help. And, you know, you talked about being strong. We don't talk about it because strength, we try to bottle it up and keep it in. The strongest thing you can ever do is ask for help. That takes courage and strength, and you are strong for doing it. So please don't beat yourself up. Do it. It's the right thing to do. And more people love you. They'd rather talk to you now than talk at your funeral. I promise you that.
It is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I talk about loneliness because my father passed away and he was in his 70s. And it's something that I know when you have someone who's older as well, we don't talk about it as well. When people start getting older, there's the issue with loneliness. And that's also something like the awareness that you're talking about here, I think there's that correlation to loneliness as well. When people live alone, or people, when you live alone, you have a tendency of becoming a little, not everybody, but some people do. Around the holidays, people get depressed. Valentine's Day, because people do not have a significant other to spend the holidays with. Christmas. So there's a lot of that, and I'm so grateful to you for having an organization like this for people to tap into.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And that is a huge, huge part of what we do is loneliness. We're trying to connect in real life and in person. And with our Million Hugs for Hope and our Unplug and Hug challenge, the whole goal is to reach out and let other people know they're seen. And when people make the promise to live, we give them our coin to keep and a coin to give. So even when I go through the drive-through, I'll tell the person at the window before I go, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I hand them this cute little pocket hug that has resources on it. And it says on the back, when times are tough and you don't know what to do, here's a hug from me to you. Call or text 988 if you're struggling. And I can't even tell you, like, even at the airport, at TSA, at the gas station, giving those out, people go, I needed that today. I needed that. And we don't come into the world alone. We shouldn't go out of the world alone. We shouldn't feel this way, but we do. We're more connected than ever, yet we're so disconnected. It's ridiculous. And we just want people to help us make others feel seen and get them to make that promise to reach out. Because even when we don't love ourselves enough, we want to honor our word, or we love you enough to keep the promise, even when it's not for ourselves. And it might take 6 minutes or 6 years, but hopefully they find the hope and the goal and the happiness that they need to live a successful life down the road.
Yeah, that is amazing.
It is incredible.
Yeah, and she mentioned something that was so important that like and I love that she included this in there. It's like talking about like, for women and without aging myself, it's like, as we're going through certain hormonal changes to whatever, or even, in my family, like a lot of the women, postpartum has been a very difficult struggle for some of those. And I actually had a girlfriend very recently that gave birth, and it was her third child. And so, okay, she was fine before, and she, when we were talking, that was something she had disclosed to me, right? And it's like, she, I'm grateful to her for that, but I just remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like, here she was, and she also felt like, oh, I can't because I have two younger kids, and then I have a baby. And now, she felt like she had to hold it all together. And I actually had told her like, oh, here's like this number that you could call if you need anything, whatever, because sometimes it's like even that kind of pressure for women, or those are things we don't talk about. Like, I know there's certain emotions or things that would happen that I'd be like, okay, as my body changes, as I'm aging. And it's like, but we also kind of also hold this stigma against ourselves sometimes, and it doesn't matter what it is that may be causing or triggering certain types of feelings. It's like that. It's just beautiful to know that it's like, Promise to Live, it includes everybody, right?
That's wonderful.
And that's what I love about it. It's
not
like,
just kids
it's not just kids,
yeah.
or focus on, people who have struggled with certain things. It's like anyone, and it allows everybody to know it's okay to be human. It's okay to go through these things, experience these things, but there are people who care, right? And in those times, it allows them to feel safe in that. And that's what I love about the message, was like that safety and being vulnerable and being human and being able to know that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. In fact, it's strong, and being able to connect. I mean, sometimes we feel nervous to talk to people, but when we just reach out and say, "Hey, has anyone told you that you're awesome? Like, you're a beautiful person. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having a good day. And would you mind making me a promise to reach out for help?" The fact that you see them and that you even care enough means so much. I almost lost my mom as well. And she suffers from chronic debilitating disease. She's got psoriatic arthritis, degenerative bone. She's had 26 surgeries. So she looks beautiful on the outside. You would see her. She's gorgeous like you gals. And everybody looks at her and thinks, wow, she's good. But every day she fights the pain. And it's hard for her to want to be here some days. So, what Promise to Live focuses on is everyone. We focus on the commitment, making the promise, connecting people to tools and vetted resources, and building a community of connection wherever that is and however that looks, because that's what we need now. And we can all do that. That's the great part. We can all do it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful thing that you just talked about. the fact is, your mom, as you just alluded to, she looked beautiful from the outside,
Yeah,
but
we
she
don't
was
know.
struggling. It's
Oh,
something that so many of us go through. We experience the highs. You see someone outside, they look beautiful, but then internally, we don't know what struggles people are going through. So I'll ask you this because you experienced this with your daughter twice.
yeah.
What do you do to ensure that she doesn't get back into that dark space?
Oh gosh, you would ask me that question because, she hit a wall last week. Mom, I'm 19 years old. I've never built a business. I bit off more than I can chew. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I said, I'm so glad you're talking to me. Thank you for sharing that with me. And we set up an appointment with her doctor. We learned a lot of things, which the number one thing is just she feels safe to talk to me. I feel safe to talk to her. We did a thing where it was like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you at? 10 being the worst and 1 being the best, or however you want to do it. And we know if she gets to a certain level that we take action. Okay, great. You're not going to be alone. All right, I'm going to be here with you. So I don't know that you can ever say anyone's cured or out of the woods, but this is why it's important for all of us to make that promise because none of us know what tomorrow brings or next month or next year. And so we have to make the promise when we're in a safe state of mind to say, I will promise, we will think about it. And then we continue to remake that promise. You just continue to say, I'm going to promise again today I'm going to promise to live. I'm going to promise to reach out for help. I'm going to promise to try to be happy and find hope in whatever way that looks like. And you take suicide for us. I talk all the time, especially to entrepreneurs and things. Take suicide off the table as an option. Do not even let it cross your mind as an option. If you lost your job, you wouldn't think, great, I'm just going to go rob the bank. You wouldn't do it because those consequences sound terrible. They're way better than taking your life. So why do we allow that to even be an option? So for people, I think a lot of it has to do we're going through things, finding treatment, finding help, finding resources. And there's a lot of different things that work for some people and don't work for others, whether it's talk therapy, medication, natural therapy. But the number one thing is just being open, talking about it, knowing where to go for it, and being willing to make the promise and continue to reach out. And if you can, take it off the shelf. Don't even let it be an option. Say, I'm no longer considering this as a viable option. It shouldn't be.
Wow.
That's
That gives me the chills. So how did you, this is a little bit of a lighter note, how did you come up with the name Promise2Live? I think it's such a brilliant name. I mean, the naming convention, it's just beautiful.
Well, thanks. The very first time we did it, we called it Live Live. And it was just like, I want people to live. We want to choose to get them to live. And then as we went through it, I was like, but that's not clear and people don't understand. And what was at the heart of this? The heart of this was the promise I made God. Because I guarantee you, I would have quit doing this mission. It was way too hard. This was not my purpose in the beginning. It wasn't anything I ever wanted to do, but I made a promise and I keep my promise and I kept it to him. And I just thought during that time as well, I talked to my daughter and I said, I know you don't want to live. It's obvious. You've tried to kill yourself twice. I know you don't want to be here, but I had her make me a promise at the hospital. And I said, will you promise me that if you find yourself in that dark place again, that you'll reach out? It can be me, your dad, your teacher. And I got her to make the promise. And I said, I know you don't love yourself enough, but I know you love this little boy, her brother. I adopted him and they're best friends. I said, I know you love him. Will you please make the promise for him? And she made the promise and it got us through. So as I thought about it, I was like, what is our mission? What is our goal? And at the heart of it, it's a promise. It's the promise to live. It's the promise to reach out for help. It's the promise to be there when you don't know how to be there. It's a promise not just for you. And it's two, we did the number 2 because the promise is twofold. It's a promise to live for you, but it's a promise to live for them. So, and that's why we only do 2 coins at a time. You make the promise to live, 1 to keep, because we all need to know it, and 1 to give. We got to be our brother's keeper. We got to reach out to them. So promise to live is 2-part. And this is our mission. It's our basis. We know that it shifts the narrative from awareness to action. And that's what we have to have is action and accountability.
Wow.
yeah.
You know, one of the things that I personally, for me, I've never shared, or I've shared it with people. When I lost my mom died when she was so young. She was in her 50 or something, and she was traveling. She was in London, and she died unexpectedly. I have a younger brother, and I have a very, very close-knit family. I'm extremely close, but I lived alone. When my mom passed away, I literally did not know how to cope with grief, because no one tells you how to cope with grief. My brother came to live with me, but I gotta say this, that if I didn't have that support system, I would have died. I'm sorry. It's the truth. And I say this because a part of me felt lost without my mom. I woke up and I realized my whole world had changed. So the fact that your organization basically is aware, it's not just about mental, it's about every phase of a person's life. Grief, all of that can cause a person, it could trigger something in a person to want to take your life away. I know this from experience, what I went through when I lost my mom. I saw doctors, they were trying to put me on pills. I was like, I'm going to exercise. I was at the gym, I was fine. I came home, I couldn't be alone. So the fact that you have such a powerful organization is wonderful. Thank you for everything that you're doing to educate the world.
Yeah. And thank you for the community that's being provided, because like she said, there are people that, you know, that really don't have a lot of people maybe that they are really close to, or, you know what I'm saying? People who've moved and transplanted to other locations and, you know, may live in different time zones in their family. And that's the great thing I think about Promise to Live, is that there is, it's not just like, okay, resources there, but an entire community accessible to people that maybe don't have that support, you know, as easily reachable to them in proximity physically.
And that's what we know. We all need connection. And we know that addiction and trauma and grief and loss at the end of the day can lead to suicide. So we love to partner with those organizations and teach people how to cope and how to get through it, and get them to promise to reach out, whether you're struggling with addiction or grief or whatever it is, because it's just the power of getting you through that moment. And I'm glad you're here, and I'm sorry about your mom, but thank you so much for allowing us to share Promise to Live with your network.
No, thank you. I think it's important to share, because again, I think you alluded to this earlier with regards to your mom and the pain she was going through. People see someone and they think everything is perfect. Yeah. And I share this all the time. I mean, it doesn't mean something is wrong with me, but I am so dependent on my community of friends, my family, to help me, because I know I experienced that when I lost my mom. I was like I don't know. I don't know what happened to me, but it was dark. Seriously, it was a horrible time. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I see Roger there putting the 3-minute mark. Brandy, this has been incredible. Yes. The last question is, if you were to have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, goodness. I always wanted to meet Mother Teresa. I think she would be amazing, just because I love her heart, that if you want to, you will, and you can. God, of course. How cool would that be? I have a lot of questions. I can't wait to answer them, but I'm going to wait. I'll wait until it's my turn. And I don't know. Who would be my third? That's a good question. I'm going to have to think about it. I don't have one off the top.
Okay, that's a good one, Brandy. Thank you. It's been such an honor. I know you're busy. You've got a town hall. For being here with us today, sharing your insight and inspiring everybody. Carla, what an inspirational.
Thank you so much, Brandy.
Love you guys. Thank you for the opportunity. And let's keep saving lives. And I can't wait to see you in September.
Of course, we'll be there. Carla, thank you so much for hosting with me. Roger, of course, thank you for producing. What a great guest. Arsher, thank you so much for being behind the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to watch this episode with Brandy on the Discovery Pod with Ease YouTube channel, or you could watch us on your favorite podcast platform. Again, stop by every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. You never know who's going to stop by. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Brandy. Have a great town hall.
Thank you.